Welcome to the Eleanor Diaries. Today, I'm sharing a story about after discovering her daughter-in-law Jasmine mocked her on TikTok and plotted to seize her self-built home, Ruthie May takes decisive action. She legally secures her property, removes the couple's possessions, and sets strict new terms for them to stay. This leads to her son's separation from his manipulative wife, Jasmine's public apology, and Ruthie May reclaiming her dignity and home, inspiring others in the process. Before we turn the page, make sure to subscribe to the Eleanor Diaries so you don't miss any secrets. Now, let's uncover the truth together. My daughter-in-law posted a TikTok saying, "My mother-in-law doesn't do anything anymore. It's her duty to take care of the house and the kids." She laughed as people applauded her honesty. I just smiled and closed the app. I decided to teach her a lesson she would never forget. When she came home, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. I never thought it would end up like this, that at the age of 68, my hands scarred from 4 decades of honest work, I would be sitting in the living room of my own house watching thousands of strangers laugh at me. It was a Thursday afternoon. I remember the scent of cinnamon from the coffee I had just brewed, the sound of the birds out on the deck. I had just finished cleaning the whole house, as always, and sat down for a moment in my armchair. It was the one I bought 20 years ago that still holds its original navy blue color because I treat it like silk. I picked up my cell phone. I'm not one of those old ladies who can't use technology. I taught myself, watching tutorials, asking my neighbor Gladys. I went to TikTok because my granddaughter Kyla had shown me how to use it to look at recipes and cat videos, simple things that made me smile. But that day, the algorithm showed me something different. I saw the face of Jasmine, my daughter-in-law, smiling into the camera with that smile I thought was genuine. She was wearing a pink blouse that I had given her myself for her birthday. The video started with a catchy tune in the background and her speaking directly to the screen. "Y'all want to know the best thing about having a mother-in-law?" she said with a singing voice, raising her eyebrows as if she was about to tell the joke of the year. My heart didn't suspect a thing yet. "I don't have to do a single thing around the house," she continued, and my stomach clenched. The camera panned. It showed my kitchen. My kitchen, where I had just been washing the breakfast dishes they'd left behind. I was visible from the back in my yellow floral apron, the same one I'd used for years because it reminded me of when my husband Richard was still alive. "My mother-in-law. She doesn't have anything else going on in her life," Jasmine said mockingly. "So it's her duty to take care of the house and the kids. I mean, what else is she going to do? Sit around watching TV all day?" She laughed, that laugh I knew from family dinners and Sunday afternoons. But now it sounded different. It sounded cruel. The comments loaded onto my screen. Thousands. "LOL, you right. That's what grandmothers are for. Get it, girl. Let the old folks work. Oh yeah, gotta earn that keep." I felt something break inside me. It wasn't a loud, dramatic pain. It was worse. It was like when your favorite antique teacup breaks, and the sound is so quiet you barely hear it, but when you look at the floor, it's shattered into a million pieces. My hands trembled holding the phone. 63,000 likes, 800 comments, thousands of shares. I was turned into the afternoon's entertainment for thousands of people who didn't know me, who didn't know my name, who didn't know what I had built, what I had sacrificed, what I had given. I closed the application, but the image was etched into my mind, into my soul. I stood up from the armchair. My legs held me, but I felt like I was walking on cotton. I went to the kitchen and poured water into a glass, one of the set I bought when I got married almost 50 years ago. I drank slowly, trying to get my breathing back to normal. I heard laughter from Jasmine and my son Ethan's bedroom. She was showing him the video. I heard her voice. "Look, baby, it already has over 50,000 likes. People understand, see?" And the worst part came next. The voice of my son, my Ethan, the boy I carried in my arms when his father died, and people told me I wouldn't be able to raise him alone. The young man I took on 2 city buses every morning to school because we didn't have a car. The man I hugged on his wedding day, promising him he would always have a home with me. Oh, Jessie, you're right. Besides, Mom's old now. What else can she do? They laughed together. In that moment, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I just smiled. A small, still smile that came from some deep place I didn't even know existed. Because in that second, as I listened to their laughter, as I saw the notifications keep popping up on the phone, still in my hand, I understood something that would change everything. I had been too good, too quiet, too available. I had confused love with invisibility, and that was about to end. I opened the video again and watched every second of it, every mocking gesture, every comment calling me a gold digger or a burden, and as I watched, my mind began to work, because Jasmine had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She didn't know who she was messing with. She didn't know that this house she walked through so comfortably with such arrogance had an owner, and that owner was not a weak or defeated woman. It was me, Ruthie May Jakes, and I was about to remind everyone who built these walls. I turned off my phone, took off my apron, poured myself another cup of coffee, and started planning. Because if I learned anything in 68 years of life, it's that battles aren't won by shouting. They're won by thinking, waiting, and acting at the exact right moment. And my moment was about to arrive. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bedroom, the smallest one in the house, the one with a view of the alley and not the yard, staring at the ceiling while listening to Ethan and Jasmine snoring in the master bedroom, the one that had been mine for 30 years, the one I had given up so they could be more comfortable. I woke up at 4 in the morning as usual. My bones already had that internal clock that doesn't need an alarm. I put on my robe, clean but threadbare at the elbows, and went out to the backyard. The air was cool. It smelled like damp earth, even though it hadn't rained. I sat down on the concrete bench next to the lemon tree, the tree I planted when Ethan was 5, and that now gave lemons as big as fists. And there, in the darkness, still broken only by the yellow light from the street lamp, I let the memories come, because I needed to remember. I needed my own history to give me the strength I felt slipping through my fingers. I bought this house in 1988. Let me repeat that so you understand clearly. I bought it with my money, with my hands. I was 28 years old and had just buried Richard, stomach cancer. 4 months from diagnosis until he closed his eyes for the last time, squeezing my hand as if he wanted to take a piece of me with him. I was left alone with Ethan, a 3-year-old who still asked for his daddy every night before bed, with no savings and no family who could help us. My parents had already passed, and Richard's family disappeared as soon as they realized there was no inheritance. People told me, "Sell out, Ruthie May. Go back to your hometown. Find a man to take care of you." I would smile at them and think to myself, I'd rather die. I got a job at the textile factory in the old industrial district, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift. I sewed pockets onto denim jeans, $500 a day. My fingers bled the first few weeks until they developed calluses so hard I couldn't feel the needles anymore. But it wasn't enough. So I got another job. From 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., I cleaned offices in a downtown high-rise. I took Ethan with me. I'd sit him in a chair with his crayons and little books while I mopped floors, emptied trash cans, and polished desks where others made important decisions. I slept 4 hours, sometimes 3. On weekends, I sold homemade sweet potato pies and fried chicken dinners that I prepared late Friday nights. I took them in a big cooler to the church bazaar. Ethan helped me shout, "Hot dinners! Get your pie and chicken here!" Every dollar I earned, I saved in a metal box I hid under my bed. No luxuries, no new clothes, no going out, just work, just saving. Just the dream of having a place of my own where my son could grow up safe. It took me 5 years. 5 years of waking up before the sun and going to bed after it had risen again. 5 years of watching Ethan grow up practically without me, raised between factories and offices, eating cold sandwiches, and sleeping on borrowed chairs. But in 1993, when Ethan turned 8, I signed the deed to this house. It was small back then, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen and living room that were all the same space. The walls had cracks, the roof leaked when it rained hard, the floor tiles were broken. There was no yard, just a patch of dirt and weeds. But it was mine. I cried the day I got the keys. I cried so hard that Ethan got scared and hugged me, saying, "Don't cry, Mommy, we're going to be okay now." And I started fixing it up. I installed the bathroom tiles myself. I watched tutorials at the library, asked for advice from the bricklayers working in the neighborhood. I bought the cheapest materials and installed them with my own hands. I cut myself, I burned myself with the cement mix. My back ached for weeks, but it was beautiful. I painted the walls light yellow because I wanted the light to come in. I planted the lemon tree. I put pots with red geraniums by the entrance. I built the concrete bench where I was now sitting. By the time Ethan turned 15, we had a full yard. We held his birthday party right here. We invited 30 people. There was music, barbecue ribs, and German chocolate cake that I made using my grandmother's recipe. My son hugged me that night and said, "Thank you for giving us this home, Mom. Someday I'm going to take care of you, just like you took care of me." I treasured those words in my heart. When Ethan finished high school, I expanded the house. I took out a loan and built 2 more bedrooms, one for him, one for me. I separated them with a hallway so he could have privacy. I gave him his own closet, his own space. "For when you bring your wife home," I joked. He laughed. "Mom, you're always going to be the queen of this house." I paid off that loan in 3 years, working double shifts again without complaining, because it was for my son, for our future. Ethan studied business administration at City College. I paid for his books, his bus fare, his food. I worked cleaning houses on Saturdays and Sundays so he could concentrate on his studies and not have to work. He graduated with honors. We cried together on his graduation day. He gave me a bouquet of yellow flowers, my favorites, and told all his classmates, "These are from my mom. She's the reason I'm standing here." I was the proudest woman in the world. 2 years later, he met Jasmine. She worked as a receptionist at the firm where Ethan got his first job. She was pretty, friendly, well-spoken. I liked her from the start. When Ethan told me they were getting married, I hugged her and said, "Welcome to the family, sweetheart. This house is yours too." I meant every word. We organized the wedding here in the backyard. We didn't have money for a big venue, but we made it beautiful. Lights strung in the trees, tables with white tablecloths that I sewed myself, food prepared with the help of the neighbors. Jasmine cried with happiness. She hugged me and said, "Thank you, mother-in-law. Ethan is so lucky to have a mom like you." When they came back from their honeymoon, a 3-day weekend at a South Carolina beach resort that I paid for, I offered to let them stay in the house while they saved up for their own place. "It's not forever," Ethan said, "just until we get enough for a down payment on a condo." "Take all the time you need," I replied, and I gave them the master bedroom, my room, the one with the big closet, the window overlooking the yard, the private bathroom I had worked so hard to build. "You two are young. You need your space," I told them as I moved my things to the small room. Ethan protested. Jasmine said, "Oh, mother-in-law, you don't have to do that." But I insisted, because that's just who I am. I give. I yield. I make myself small so others can grow. Kyla was born, then Samuel. I became the full-time grandmother. I watched the children while Jasmine worked. I bathed them, fed them, helped them with their homework. I got up in the middle of the night when they cried so their parents could sleep. I'm a light sleeper anyway. I'd say I cleaned the house, cooked for everyone, washed their laundry, ironed Ethan's shirts, and bought groceries with my Social Security, because I eat less anyway. I never asked for anything in return. I never complained, because I thought that was love. But sitting there on the bench at 5 in the morning, the day after that awful video, I realized something that split me in two. I had become invisible in my own home. Not because I was old or useless, but because I gave so much that I stopped existing as a person. I became a function, a service, the woman who cleans, cooks, and watches the kids. And the worst part is I let it happen. The sun began to rise. Birds sang in the lemon tree. I heard Ethan's door open and close. Footsteps toward the bathroom. I wiped away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I touched the wall of the house. Cold, solid, mine. Every brick held my sweat, every tile my blood, every corner my history. And no one, absolutely no one, was going to take that away from me, especially not someone who never had to build anything with her own hands. I got up from the bench, straightened my back, and took a deep breath. The war had begun, but first I needed to know exactly what I was fighting. I waited until breakfast. I prepared smothered pork chops and grits, Ethan's favorite since he was a boy, with shredded chicken, cream, and fresh cheese. I set the table carefully. Clean plates, folded napkins, freshly squeezed orange juice, and the glass pitcher I inherited from my mother. Jasmine came down first. She was wearing silk pajamas that cost over $75. I know because I saw the receipt in her bag. Her hair was pulled back in a perfect ponytail. She looked rested, radiant. "Morning, mother-in-law," she said with that singing voice that now sounded completely fake to me. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her as I poured coffee into her favorite mug, the one with the floral design that she bought herself and that no one else is allowed to use. "Jasmine," I said finally, my voice calm, "I need to talk to you." She looked up from her phone because she hadn't even stopped checking it to greet me. "Yeah, what's up?" Her tone was distracted, uninterested. "I saw your video." The silence that followed was so heavy, I could feel the air change in the kitchen. Jasmine blinked once, twice. Then she let out a nervous little laugh. "Oh, mother-in-law, what video are you talking about? The one on TikTok where you say it's my duty to take care of the house and your children because I don't do anything else with my life?" Her cheeks turned red, but it wasn't shame I saw in her eyes. It was annoyance. Annoyance that I had caught her. "Oh, you're exaggerating. It was just a joke." She got up to pour more coffee, turning her back to me. People understood it was a joke. 63,000 people laughing at me. That doesn't sound like a joke, Jasmine. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Ethan was coming down. He was wearing the pajamas I got him for Christmas, and his hair was messy. He looked tired. He works hard, I know, but when he saw my face, he knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" he asked, looking back and forth between us. Jasmine got ahead of me. She approached him with that victim look I now recognized perfectly. "Your mom is mad about a video I posted, but honey, it was just a joke. Everyone on TikTok knows it's fun content. It's not meant to be taken seriously." Ethan looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw something that hurt more than 1,000 videos. Doubt. He doubted me. "Mom, what video is she talking about?" I took out my cell phone. My hands trembled slightly, but I held it steady. I opened TikTok and searched for Jasmine's profile. The video was still there. It now had 92,000 likes. I showed him. Ethan watched the whole thing. I saw his eyes moving, following the images, reading the comments, watching his expression go from curiosity to discomfort. But then he spoke, and his words were worse than any insult. "Mom, I think you're overreacting." I felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water on my back. "Overreacting?" I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. "It's just that," Ethan scratched the back of his neck, uncomfortable. "It's just a video. Jasmine has a lot of followers. She makes that kind of content. It's not personal. It's not personal." My voice rose without me being able to control it. She filmed me without my permission. She put me on display in front of thousands of people. She said it's my duty to serve you two, and it's not personal? Jasmine crossed her arms. She was no longer pretending to be sorry. "Mother-in-law, you told me yourself 2 weeks ago that you loved watching the kids, that it was the best part of your life. I was just repeating your words." It was true. I had said that, but not in the way she presented it, not with that mocking tone, not to justify using me. "Besides," Jasmine continued, now more confident because she saw Ethan wasn't defending me, "we all live here together. It's normal for everyone to contribute. We pay the utilities, the food, you help with the house. We all contribute." Something in my chest tightened so much I thought I was going to pass out. "You pay the utilities?" I asked slowly. "The food?" "Well, yeah," Ethan said, as if it were obvious. "The electric bill, the gas, the water, the groceries, it all comes out of my paycheck." I sat down in the chair because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. "Ethan," I said, looking him straight in the eye, "do you know whose name is on the deed to this house?" He frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Answer me." "I don't know. Dad's, I guess, or both of yours." Jasmine was looking at me curiously now, too. I felt something break inside, not from sadness, but from pure indignation. This house is in my name, only my name. I bought it in 1993 with my money. Every dollar I paid for the down payment, every monthly payment for 15 years came from my hands. Your father never saw it finished because he died before I could buy it. I built the bathroom with my hands. I laid these tiles. I planted that yard where your children play. And I have never, ever charged you a single dollar in rent. The silence was absolute. The utilities you pay so proudly are for my house. The food you buy is cooked on my stove, stored in my refrigerator, served on my table. You sleep in my bedroom. You bathe in my bathroom. You breathe in my living room. I watched Jasmine clench her jaw. And never in the 5 years you two have been living here have I asked for anything but respect. "Mom, calm down," Ethan said. And that phrase was the final straw. Calm down. After your wife put me on display in front of thousands of people, after they called me a gold digger, a useless old woman, a family burden, after you two laughed at me? Ethan turned pale. You heard us? I heard you two laughing at the video yesterday afternoon. You said, "Oh, Jessie, you're right. Besides, Mom's old now. What else can she do?" My son looked down. He couldn't meet my gaze, but Jasmine could. And what I saw in her eyes chilled my blood. There was no remorse. There was only annoyance. "Well, if it bothers you so much," she said, releasing the words like daggers, "I can delete the video." Happy? It's not about the video, Jasmine. It's about respect. It's about this being my house, and I deserve to be treated with dignity in it. "Nobody disrespected you," she yelled, raising her voice. "Now you're the one making a huge drama out of something everyone does on social media. You should be grateful I included you in my content. Other influencers charge people to appear in their videos." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked at my son, hoping he would say something, defend me, set boundaries with his wife. But Ethan only said, his voice tired, "Mom, I think you're both overreacting. Jasmine, delete the video. Mom, forgive her. Let's just drop it. I don't want fights in this house." And that's when I understood everything. My son wouldn't defend me. He had chosen false peace over justice. He had chosen not to inconvenience his wife over protecting his mother. I got up from the table. The pork chops and grits had gotten cold. No one had touched them. "You're right," I said, with a calm I didn't feel. "I don't want fights. Have a good day." I went up to my room, locked the door, and for the first time in a long time, I cried. But not out of sadness, out of rage, because I had just discovered that in my own house, the one I built with my hands, the one I paid for with my blood and sweat, I was worth less than the comfort of a manipulative daughter-in-law and the cowardice of a blind son. But if I learned anything in this life, it's that tears dry up, and rage turns into action. I dried my face, opened my bedside table drawer, took out an old notepad where I kept important numbers, and started making calls. Because Jasmine and Ethan had just made a terrible mistake. They thought that because I was older, I was weak. They were about to learn that the women of my generation didn't survive by being weak. We survived by being smarter than our enemies. 3 days passed. 3 days in which I acted as if nothing had happened. I prepared breakfast, picked up toys, and smiled when the children hugged me. I greeted Jasmine politely when she walked past me, as if I were part of the furniture. But inside, everything had changed. Now I observed, I listened, and I took mental notes of every detail I used to let slide. On Monday night, Jasmine went out with her friends. She came back at 11 o'clock, smelling of cigarettes and expensive perfume I didn't recognize. Ethan was asleep. He didn't ask her anything when she came in. On Tuesday, while cleaning their room, because yes, I was still doing it, even though every fiber of my being screamed at me to stop, I found a receipt from an Italian restaurant. $150 for a dinner for two. Date, Wednesday of last week. The day Jasmine told me she was going to run errands up her bank. I didn't say anything. I just folded the receipt and put it in my apron pocket. Wednesday was when everything changed. It was almost midnight. I couldn't sleep. Lately, I was sleeping worse than ever, tossing and turning, thinking about everything that had happened. I went downstairs to the kitchen for a glass of water with lemon, that remedy that always calms my nerves. The house was dark and quiet. I could only hear the hum of the refrigerator and the distant bark of a dog in the street. I poured my water, squeezed half a lemon into it. I was about to go back up when I heard Jasmine's voice. It was coming from the backyard. She was on the phone. I froze by the kitchen door, standing in the shadows with the glass in my hand. "No, Mom, not yet," Jasmine said, her voice low but clear. "I told you this takes time." Silence. I heard someone on the other end. I know, but I can't just pressure her. The old lady is more stubborn than we thought." My heart started beating faster. "Look, I'll explain it to you again," Jasmine continued, her tone impatient. "As soon as she dies, this house automatically passes to Ethan. He's her only son, and what's Ethan's is mine. That's how inheritance works." I felt the floor moving beneath my feet. The lawyer told me that since we've been living here for 5 years, we have possession rights. We can claim we've contributed to the maintenance of the property. Besides, she's old. How much time does she have left? 10 years? 5? She spoke of my death as casually as one speaks of the weather. "No, Ethan doesn't know anything," Jasmine said, letting out a dry laugh. "And he can't know. You know how sentimental he is about his dear old mommy. If I tell him the house is going to be ours, he'll start crying and saying his mother deserves respect and all that nonsense." I had to cover my mouth to stop the scream trying to escape my throat. "Of course I respect her, Mom, but we have to be practical. This house is easily worth $450,000. Do you know how much we could do with that money? Sell it? Buy something bigger in a better neighborhood? Invest the leftovers? $450,000. My house, my life, my sacrifice, reduced to a number in this woman's head. Look, I already talked to the lawyer last week. He explained everything. Since the house is only in her name and there's no registered will, it passes directly to the forced heir, which is Ethan. Period. He doesn't even have to do anything. It's automatic." I heard the click of a lighter. Jasmine was smoking, something she always denied when Ethan asked her if she still had that vice. The only problem would be if she makes a will and leaves the house to someone else. But who? She doesn't have anyone else. And I seriously doubt someone her age is thinking about those things. Old ladies from her generation don't go to notaries or draw up papers. They live in the past. I felt the rage rise through my chest like hot lava. Besides, even if she did make a will, I checked. Forced heirs can claim their share. Ethan will always be entitled to something. So either way, we win. Another silence. I heard her take a long drag from the cigarette. "The video. Oh, Mom, that was different. That was for my audience, for the engagement. You know how this works. The more controversy, the more views. And yeah, the old lady got mad, but she'll get over it. What's she going to do? Kick us out? She doesn't have the guts. You saw how dramatic she got, but at the end of the day, she kept cooking and cleaning like always." That's when something inside me stopped hurting and began to burn. "Don't worry," Jasmine said with a confidence that made me sick. "Everything is under control. I'll make sure to keep her happy and useful. As long as she keeps believing we're a happy family, she won't make any strange moves. And when the time comes, well, we got it. The house is ours." She hung up. I heard her footsteps approaching the house. I moved quickly. I went up the stairs as silently as I could, my heart pounding against my ribs so hard I thought my chest would explode. I entered my room, locked the door, and leaned against it, my legs trembling. I still had the glass of water in my hand. I placed it on the bedside table so carefully it didn't make a sound. And then I realized something. I had left my cell phone in the pocket of my robe, and without thinking, Purely by instinct, or maybe because God was guiding me, I had pressed record when I heard Jasmine's first sentence. With shaky hands, I pulled out the phone. The audio had recorded everything, every word, every plan, every lie. 8 minutes and 43 seconds of pure evidence. I sat on the bed and listened to the audio in full to make sure it had recorded properly. Jasmine's voice was clear. Her words were unmistakable. When it finished, I stared at the phone screen, and for the first time in days, I smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sad smile. The smile of a woman who has just found the winning cards in a game she thought she had lost. Because Jasmine was right about one thing. The women of my generation don't usually go to lawyers, except when we do. I looked at the clock. It was 1 in the morning. Too late to call, but not too late to plan. I opened the notepad where I kept important numbers. I flipped through the pages until I found what I was looking for. Azure Williams, my sister friend for 30 years, a retired real estate attorney who stepped down 5 years ago but had more legal knowledge in her pinky finger than any young lawyer. And below that, another number. Leo Jakes, my nephew, son of my brother Jerry who died 10 years ago, a family law and probate specialist, a good man who visited me every month and always told me, "Auntie, anything you need, you call me." I had never needed anything until now. I hid the phone under my pillow as if it were a treasure, because it was. It was my ammunition. I lay down, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind was working at full speed, drawing up plans, calculating moves, thinking 3 steps ahead. Jasmine thought she was smart. Jasmine thought I was a naive old woman who would let herself be used until the day I died. Jasmine didn't know who she was messing with, because I had survived the death of my husband. I had raised a son alone. I had built a house with my own hands. I had worked 20 hours a day for years. And she thought she would beat me with cheap lies and mediocre plans. Poor girl, she had no idea of the storm she had just unleashed. The next morning, I went down to breakfast as usual. I made eggs and beans, poured coffee, and greeted them with a smile. Jasmine looked at me with that air of superiority I now recognized perfectly. "Morning, mother-in-law," she said with false sweetness. "Morning, dear," I replied, and as I served her plate, as I watched Ethan read the newspaper without paying attention to me, as I listened to my grandchildren fight over the TV remote, I thought of only one thing. Enjoy these days, because your world is about to crumble, and this time there won't be a TikTok video to save it. On Thursday at 10 in the morning, while Jasmine was at the gym and Ethan was at work, I left the house with my most discreet handbag and the cell phone tucked safely into my pocket. I told the children I was going to the market. Kyla barely looked up from her tablet. Sam was watching cartoons. I took a taxi, an expense I normally avoid, but this was urgent. I gave the driver the address of the firm where Azure used to work before she retired. She now lived in a small condo near downtown, in a building from the 1970s with mustard-colored walls and plants on every balcony. I rang the bell. I heard hurried footsteps. "Who is it?" Azure's voice asked over the intercom. "It's me, sister friend Ruthie May." A brief silence, then the buzz of the door opening. I climbed the 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was always broken. Azure met me at her apartment door, her white hair pulled back in a bun, and her glasses hanging from a chain over her knitted burgundy sweater. "Ruthie May," she said, looking at me with those sharp eyes that miss nothing. "By the look on your face, this isn't a social visit." I stepped inside. The apartment smelled of freshly brewed coffee and the cinnamon candles Azure always loved. We sat in her small, cozy living room filled with books and family photos. "Tell me everything," she said without preamble, as she poured me a cup of coffee into delicate china. And I told her everything: the video, the humiliation, the conversation I overheard, Jasmine's plan to take my house. When I finished, I took out my phone and played the audio for her. Azure listened without interrupting. Her expression went from neutral to annoyed, then to downright furious. When the audio ended, she took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "That wretch," she said, her voice flat. Azure never curses. The fact that she did now told me how serious the situation was. "Does Ethan know anything about this?" "Nothing. According to Jasmine, he's completely clueless." Typical. Azure took a long sip of her coffee. Sons are always the last to see what their wives truly are. "So, what do you want to do, sister friend?" "I want to protect my house. I want them to learn a lesson. And I want Ethan to open his eyes." Azure nodded slowly, thinking. "First things first, your house is in your name, correct?" "Yes, only in my name. I don't know why, but something stopped me from putting it in Ethan's name." "That something is called instinct, and it saved you," Azure said, putting her glasses back on. "Second, do you have a will?" I shook my head. "Then Jasmine is right about one thing. If you die without a will, the house automatically passes to Ethan as the forced heir, but that can be fixed. You need to create a will, and you need to talk to my nephew, Leo." I thought the same thing. I have his number. Call him now. I'm going to text him too. That boy is good, and he's discreet. I dialed the number while Azure sent a WhatsApp message. Leo answered on the third ring. "Aunt Ruthie May, everything okay?" His voice was warm, concerned. Leo was 38. He was an only child, and after his father, my brother Jerry, died of a heart attack, I had helped him with college expenses. He had never charged me, but he always told me he owed me everything. "Leo, I need to see you. It's urgent, and it's legal." There was a pause. "Where are you with your Aunt Azure?" "I'm leaving a hearing in 20 minutes. I'll be there in 40. Don't move." He hung up. Azure smiled. That boy is one of the good ones, just like his daddy. We spent the next 30 minutes drinking coffee and planning. Azure, with her legal mind sharp even after retirement, explained my options. "You can make a will where you leave the house to whomever you want. Ethan, a foundation, a church, me if you like. It's your property." "I don't want to disinherit my son. He's a victim of her. I know that too. But you can set conditions. You can create a trust. You can divide the property. There are many legal options that protect your interests and teach that snake a lesson without leaving your son homeless." "And the video? Can I do anything about that?" Azure twisted her mouth. "Legally, it's complicated. You didn't sign any consent to appear in the video, but since it was filmed in your own house and she lives there, it's a gray area. You could ask for it to be taken down for unauthorized use of your image, but it would be a long process. I don't want long processes. I want quick justice. Then, let's go for what really hurts, the assets. You take away what she truly wants and destroy her without even stepping into a courtroom." I smiled. That's why Azure had been the best real estate attorney in the area. There was a knock on the door. Leo had arrived. I saw him through the peephole, tall, strongly built, with a neatly trimmed beard and a dark gray suit. He was carrying a leather briefcase. Azure opened the door. "Auntie," Leo greeted, kissing her cheek. Then he turned to me. "Aunt Ruthie May." He hugged me. A real hug, the kind that reminds you you're not alone in the world. The three of us sat around the coffee table. Leo took out a notepad and a pen. "Tell me everything." And I did. For the second time that morning, I narrated the entire story. I showed him the audio. Leo listened with an increasingly serious expression. When the audio finished, he closed his notepad and leaned back against the couch. Auntie, that woman is not just manipulative, she's dangerous. And what she's saying is technically correct from a legal point of view, but ethically, it's trash. Can I do something? You can do a lot, and we're going to do it. Leo opened his briefcase and took out several documents. Option 1, a public will. You establish who inherits what under what conditions. It's ironclad if done correctly. Can I set conditions? Of course. You could say Ethan inherits the house only if he gets divorced. You could say the house is sold and the money is split among your grandchildren. You can create a trust where you maintain control until your death, and then it passes to whomever you designate. The options are many. I don't want to punish Ethan. I want to protect myself from her. Leo nodded. Then I suggest this. You create a living trust. You are the grantor and the lifetime beneficiary. That means the house remains yours and only yours while you live. No one can claim it, sell it, or do anything with it. When you die, you designate heirs with whatever conditions you want. Jasmine couldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. The trust is completely protected. Even if Ethan inherited later, it would come in as his separate property, not communal. She wouldn't have any right to it. I felt a weight lift from me. How long does that take? If we start today, it'll be ready in 1 week. I need you to bring me the house deed, your official ID, and you'll come with me to the attorney's office next Tuesday. I'll take care of preparing everything. Is there anything else? I asked, taking a deep breath. I want them out of my house. Leo and Azure exchanged looks. Evict them? Leo asked. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't want to keep living with someone who's waiting for me to die so she can take what is mine. Legally, you can. It's your house. They don't have a lease agreement. They live there by your goodwill, and you can withdraw that goodwill whenever you want. It's that simple. But Auntie Leo looked at me with concern. Ethan is your son. This is going to break up the family. Are you sure? I stayed silent for a long moment. I thought about the cold pork chops, the mocking laughter, the viral video, the plan to steal my house, the blindness of my son. The family is already broken, Leo. I'm just making visible what they destroyed in secret. Azure squeezed my hand. Then we'll do this right, Leo said, and we'll do it legally. I'll help you every step of the way. We left 2 hours later with a clear plan. On Tuesday, we would go to the attorney to drop the trust. On Wednesday, Leo would help me do a legal inventory of everything that was mine in the house. And on Saturday, the day they would be away, we would execute the master plan. I took a taxi home. It was 3 in the afternoon. Jasmine was in the living room, painting her nails while watching a show on TV. She didn't even look up when I came in. Did you buy vegetables? She asked, without taking her eyes off the screen. I forgot, I lied. I'll go tomorrow. Oh, mother-in-law, how scatterbrained. Well, we'll have to order pizza then. I looked at her there, so comfortable in my armchair, using my electricity, breathing my air, planning to steal my life, and I smiled. Yes, dear, order pizza. I went up to my room, locked the documents Leo had given me in a drawer, and dialed one more number on my cell phone. Hello, Cousin Marka, it's Ruthie May. I need a favor, and it has to do with social media. Marcia, my second cousin, was 50 years old and had over 200,000 followers on TikTok. She was famous for her traditional cooking videos, but she also knew how the algorithm worked, how to make something go viral, how to tell a story that hits you right in the heart. "Tell me everything," she said with that energy that always characterized her. And I told her. When I finished, Marcia let out a long whistle. "Cousin, that girl messed with the wrong person. When you're ready for your revenge, you let me know. I'll make sure half of America hears about it." I hung up. Everything was in place. The chess pieces set, the plan drawn. Now, all that was left was to wait for the exact moment to move the queen and destroy the enemy's king. The weekend brought unexpected news. Jasmine walked into the kitchen on Friday night with her cell phone in her hand and that spoiled child smile she wore when she wanted something. "Mother-in-law," she said, her voice sugary, "guess what? We want a weekend getaway at the Grand Cypress Resort. A work raffle, all paid for. Hotel, meals, spa. We leave early tomorrow and get back late Monday night." My heart jumped, but I kept my face neutral. "That's wonderful, dear. You deserve it. You've both been working so hard." Ethan appeared behind her, carrying a suitcase. "Mom, are you sure you'll be okay? It's 3 days. It's 3 days, son. I'm 68, not 88. I can take care of myself." "But the kids," he began to say. "The children are staying with me. Or were you planning to take them to the spa?" I said, raising an eyebrow. Jasmine and Ethan exchanged uncomfortable looks. "Well, we thought," Jasmine bit her lip, "that they could come with us. There's a kids' pool. Or they can stay with Grandma and have a good time here. We'll make cookies, watch movies, go to the park." I looked at Kyla and Sam, who had just run in. "What do you two prefer, kids? Boring spa with your parents or fun weekend with Grandma?" "With Grandma!" they both shouted at the same time. Case closed. I saw the annoyance in Jasmine's eyes, but she didn't say anything. Ethan looked relieved not to have to deal with the children on their romantic getaway. They left at 7 o'clock Saturday morning. I waved them off at the door with hugs and kisses. Jasmine gave me a loose hug, the kind that means nothing. "Take care, mother-in-law, and watch the kids closely." "As always," I replied with my best obedient grandmother smile. Ethan kissed my forehead. "Thanks, Mom. You're the best." I watched them get into the car, watched them drive away down the street, watched them turn the corner and disappear. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and took out my cell phone. Lo, they're gone. Perfect. I'll be there in 30 minutes with the truck. I went upstairs to wake the children. I gave them a quick breakfast of cereal, milk, and bananas. "Grandma, are we going to the park?" Sam asked, his mouth full. "Later, sweetheart. First, Grandma has some things to do. In the meantime, do you want to watch movies on my tablet?" Their eyes lit up. I normally didn't let them watch TV in the morning, so this was a treat. I set them up in the living room with blankets and my tablet loaded with their favorite cartoons. I gave them cookies and juice. They would be entertained for at least 2 hours. At 8:30, Leo arrived. He wasn't alone. He had a small moving truck and 2 strong men in blue overalls. "Auntie," Leo greeted me, getting out of his SUV. "I'd like you to meet Roberto and Chewy. They're trustworthy. They work with a friend of mine, discreet and fast." The men greeted me respectfully, taking off their caps. "Good morning, ma'am. Where should we start?" I opened the front door. The master bedroom. Everything in there is theirs. Clothes, furniture. They brought their personal belongings. Everything comes out. Leo took out a notepad. "Let's do this properly. I'm going to list every single thing we take out. Photos, too, just in case they accuse us of theft. We'll have evidence that we only removed what belonged to them." For the next 3 hours, those 2 men worked like organized ants. They carried out the modern dresser Jasmine had bought 2 years ago. The king-sized bed they brought when they got married because the one in the house was too old. The vanity with the LED-lit mirror, the floating shelves, the 50-inch television Ethan installed on the wall, every shoebox of Jasmine's, every suit of Ethan's, every dress, every tie, every perfume, every facial cream, every beauty product, everything. Leo took photos of each item before it went downstairs. I checked off a list. "The bookshelf," I said, pointing to the dark wood unit next to the window. "Are you sure?" "It's nice," Leo said. "They bought it a year ago. I had an old pine one that's in the backyard shed now that they put this one in. It goes." The men disassembled it and took it out piece by piece. When they finished with the master bedroom, it looked like a vacant hotel room. Only the walls painted light blue, the color I chose 15 years ago, and the hardwood floor I had paid for myself remained. "Now the bathroom," I said. "Everything comes out. Jasmine's expensive products, which cost over $35 each, Ethan's electric toothbrush, the new towels they bought last year, the laundry basket they brought, even the bath mat. I left only the old towels that were mine and a basic bar of soap." "The living room?" Roberto asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. I looked around. The gray sectional sofa took up half the space. They bought it 2 years ago, when my navy blue fabric one didn't match their style. Out the television, that's theirs too. The one I had was smaller, and they put it in their room. They carried out the sofa, the glass coffee table, the 60-inch television, the sound system, even the decorative plants in modern pots that Jasmine had put in to liven up the space. I brought my old navy blue armchair out of the shed. It was a little worn, but clean and comfortable. We put it back in its usual spot. My 32-inch television returned to the living room. My carved wooden coffee table, which had belonged to my mother, recovered its place. The house was starting to look like my house again. "The kitchen?" Chewy asked. "Take out the Italian coffee maker Jasmine brought, the set of nonstick pans they bought, the new blender, the microwave oven they installed, everything that wasn't here before they moved in. We even opened the china cabinet." "This set of minimalist white plates is theirs," I said, pointing to the square dishes I hated. "Take the whole set. I have my floral plates stored away." Leo looked at me with something close to admiration. "Auntie, you are ruthless." "I'm fair. I keep what's mine. They take what's theirs. What's the problem?" He smiled. By 12, the truck was full. "Where are we taking it?" Roberto asked. "To the Maplewood Avenue storage unit," Leo said, handing him a paper with the address. "It's already rented and paid for 1 month. Here's the key." I handed him the key I had gotten on Thursday. A 60-foot storage unit, enough for all their things. You were listening to the Eleanor Diaries. Don't forget to share your thoughts on today's story in the comments below. The men left with the truck. Leo stayed with me. "Now for the interesting part," he said, taking a small toolbox out of his SUV. He changed the lock on the front door. The old silver lock that had been there for 15 years was replaced by a new gold steel one. "Here," he said, handing me 3 new keys. "One for you, one spare, and one just in case." "Is this legal?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Completely. It's your house. You can change the locks whenever you want. They have no tenants' rights because they don't pay rent. Legally, they are guests living here by your goodwill." I put the keys in my pocket. The house looked different, emptier, but more mine, as if it had recovered its soul. I cleaned everything, swept, mopped, dusted, arranged my old furniture in its original places. I took out the photographs I had stored away of Richard, of Ethan when he was a boy, of my parents, and put them back on the walls. I put tablecloths on the dining table, the hand-embroidered ones my mother gave me when I got married. I watered the plants in the yard, and when I finished, I sat in my navy blue armchair in my living room, in my house, and had a cup of coffee in my favorite mug, the one with the little flowers that Jasmine had banished to the back of the cabinet for being old-fashioned. The children were still watching cartoons, oblivious to everything. Leo sat down next to me. "How do you feel about this?" I pondered the question. I looked for guilt, remorse, doubt. I found nothing but peace. "I feel free," I said. Finally, he nodded. "They're going to come back Monday. Are you ready for that?" "More than ready." "It's going to be ugly, Auntie." "I know, but the ugly part already happened. When they turned me into a meme, when they planned to rob me, when my son laughed at me, that was ugly. This is justice." Leo stood up. "I'll be here Monday. Whatever time you tell me, you won't be alone." "Thank you, nephew." After he left, I made my grandchildren's favorite dinner: homemade chicken tenders, French fries, and colored gelatin. We ate in the backyard, sitting on the concrete bench under the lemon tree. "Grandma, why did they take so many things out of the house?" Kyla asked suddenly. My 9-year-old granddaughter was more observant than anyone thought. "I was tidying up, sweetheart. Sometimes you have to take out what's not working anymore to make space for better things." "My parents are going to be mad." I looked into her eyes, those light brown eyes she had inherited from Ethan. "Maybe, but sometimes adults have to do difficult things so everyone can learn. Do you understand?" She nodded, although she probably didn't understand entirely. The rest of the weekend was strangely peaceful. We played, watched movies, and made chocolate chip cookies. I read them stories before bed, in my bed. All three of us squeezed in, but happy. On Sunday night, after putting the children to bed, I sat in the dark living room. Tomorrow they would return. Tomorrow they would see what I had done. Tomorrow everything would change. I took out my cell phone and wrote a message to Leo. "Get here at 5 in the afternoon. They'll be here by then." His reply was immediate. "I'll be there, Auntie, with all the legal backup you need." I put the phone away. I looked around my house, my real house, the one I built, the one I defended, the one no one was going to take from me. And I waited, because the storm was about to break. And this time, I was the lightning. On Monday at 4:30 in the afternoon, I heard the car park in front of the house. I was sitting in my navy blue armchair, my hands crossed in my lap, my back straight. I had made coffee, a full pot, because this was going to be long. The children were in the backyard playing with their toy cars. I had told them not to come out until I called them. I heard the car doors close, voices, laughter. They were happy from their weekend getaway. Footsteps approached the door, the sound of a key entering the lock, turning without opening. Silence again. The key, the attempt, the resistance. "What's up? It won't open," Ethan's confused voice said. "Try again," Jasmine said impatiently. More attempts, more metallic sounds of frustration. "Is it jammed?" Ethan sounded worried. I stood up from the armchair and smoothed my dress. I was wearing my favorite, the beige one with embroidered flowers, the one I wore for important occasions. I walked to the door. From inside, I could hear them struggling with the lock. I opened it. Ethan was there, a key in his hand, sweating. Jasmine was behind him, looking annoyed, carrying her expensive beach bag. "Mom, thank goodness you're here." "The lock is jammed. We can't," Ethan began to say. "It's not jammed," I interrupted him, my voice calm. "I changed it." Absolute silence. They both looked at me as if I had spoken in another language. "What do you mean you changed it?" Jasmine asked, with a nervous laugh. "Why would you do that?" Because it's my house and I decided to change the locks. Mom, what is going on? Ethan dropped his suitcase. His face showed genuine confusion. Come in, I said, stepping aside, but leave your suitcases outside, please. What? It's hot. Jasmine tried to enter with her luggage. I said, leave them outside. I repeated more firmly. Something in my tone stopped them. They left the suitcases on the porch and came inside. And that's when they saw it. Jasmine was the first to realize. Her eyes scanned the living room as if it were a place she had never seen before. Where is my furniture? She asked, her voice shrill. Where is the sectional, the TV? What did you do? Ethan looked around, his mouth open. Mom, where is everything? In a storage unit, I replied calmly, sitting down in my armchair again, on Maplewood Avenue. Your things are there waiting for you. Our things? Jasmine's voice went up 3 octaves. What did you do with our things? I moved them to a safe place. Everything you brought into this house is packed and stored. Nothing was lost. Everything is inventoried. Jasmine ran toward the stairs. I heard her taking the steps 2 at a time. I heard her scream from upstairs. Ethan, come up! Everything! She took everything. My clothes, my shoes, my vanity, the bed. Footsteps running, doors opening and closing. The bathroom, too. My creams. Everything. More footsteps coming down now. Jasmine first, her face red with fury. Ethan behind her, pale as paper. Are you insane? Jasmine yelled, standing in front of me. This is theft. I'm calling the police. You'll go to jail. Call them, I said, unperturbed. I have the deed to the house. I have a complete inventory of what I took out. I have photos of everything, and I have witnesses. I didn't touch anything that wasn't yours. We live here. You can't just kick us out like this. I'm not kicking you out. Your things are in a safe place. You can stay, but you will sleep in the rooms I choose with the furniture I provide under the rules I establish. Mom, I don't understand. Ethan finally spoke. His voice was trembling. What is all this? Why? What did we do? I looked at him. My son, my only son. I felt a pang in my chest, but I didn't back down. Ethan, sit down. You, too, Jasmine. It's time we talk about the truth. I'm not sitting down. I want my things back now, Jasmine yelled. I took my cell phone out of my dress pocket. Before you keep yelling, there's something you need to hear. I don't care, Jasmine began. I pressed play. Jasmine's voice filled the living room. No, Mom, not yet. I told you this takes time. I know, but I can't just pressure her. The old lady is more stubborn than we thought. I watched the color drain from Jasmine's face. I let it play. Every word, every plan, every lie. As soon as she dies, this house automatically passes to Ethan. The lawyer told me that, since we've been living here for 5 years, we have possession rights. This house is easily worth $450,000. Ethan sank onto the armchair. His face went from confusion to horror. No, Ethan doesn't even know anything. You know how sentimental he is about his dear old mommy. My son looked at me. There were tears in his eyes. The audio continued until the last poisoned word. When it ended, the silence was so dense you could cut it with a knife. That was... Jasmine tried to speak, but her voice broke. Taken out of context. A joke. A lie. I finished for her. No, Jasmine. That was last Wednesday at 11:30 p.m. in my backyard, talking to your mother, planning how to take my house. I don't. She searched for words, excuses, anything. You lied. You manipulated. And worst of all, you lied to my son. You used him as a ladder to get to something that never belonged to you. Ethan had his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. Ethan, I can explain. Jasmine tried to get close to him. Don't touch me, he yelled, pushing her away. It was the first time in 5 years I had seen him yell at her. Is everything she said true? Is it true? Honey, you have to understand. I just wanted to secure our future, the children's future. Answer me. Is it true or not? Jasmine opened her mouth, closed it, and in that silence, Ethan found his answer. He got up from the armchair, stumbled a little, and looked at me, his eyes full of tears. Mom, I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know anything about this. I know, I said softly. That's why I didn't take your things, too. He let out a sob, a sound that broke my heart, but didn't make me change my mind. What do you want us to do? He asked, his voice cracking. Just then, there was a knock at the door. That must be my attorney, I said, getting up. He arrived just in time. I opened the door. Leo came in with his briefcase, impeccably dressed in a dark suit. Good afternoon. I'm Mr. Leo Jakes, legal counsel for Mrs. Ruthie May Jakes. You are Ethan Jakes and Jasmine Williams. They both nodded, still in shock. Perfect. I'm here to deliver some documents and explain the legal situation. Leo opened his briefcase and pulled out several papers. First, this is a copy of the irrevocable living trust that Mrs. Jakes executed last week. The house is now under an irrevocable trust where she is the grantor and lifetime beneficiary. That means no one, absolutely no one, can claim rights over this property while she is alive. He handed a copy to each of them. Second, here is the complete inventory of the assets that were removed from the house. As you can see, only belongings you brought after moving in were removed. Nothing belonging to Mrs. Jakes was touched. Third, Leo continued, his voice professional but firm, here is the address and key to the storage unit where your belongings are. You have 30 days to retrieve them. After that time, Mrs. Jakes is not responsible for what happens to them. Jasmine looked at the papers as if they were written in hieroglyphics, and fourth, Leo looked at me before continuing. Mrs. Jakes is within her rights to ask you to vacate the property at any moment, as there is no lease agreement, and your stay here has been at the owner's discretion. However, I said, looking at everyone, I'm not going to kick you out. Ethan, you are my son. You will always be my son, but things are going to change. If you want to stay, there will be rules. Jasmine, I looked her straight in the eye, you can stay too, but with conditions, or you can both leave. The decision is yours. What conditions? Ethan asked, wiping his tears. First, you will pay rent, $1,500 a month to stay in my house. But Mom. Second, you will help with the housework. Everyone, not just me. We will make a schedule together. Third, absolute respect toward me, toward this house, toward what I have built. No videos, no mocking, no secret plans, or you leave. Jasmine opened her mouth to protest, and fourth, I continued without letting her speak, Jasmine, you will delete that video, now in front of me, and you will post an apology, a real one, or there is no deal. And if I don't accept, Jasmine asked with the last bit of pride she had left, then your husband and children stay, and you go. The decision is yours. The silence that followed was eternal. Ethan looked at Jasmine. Jasmine looked at Ethan. Both looked at the legal papers in their hands, and Jasmine, for the first time since I met her, collapsed. "I'm sorry," she whispered, barely audible. "I'm sorry." I didn't know if she truly meant it or if she only said it because she had no other options. But honestly, at that moment, I no longer cared. I had recovered my house. I had recovered my dignity. And I had recovered my son from the clutches of a lie. The rest would come with time. No one moved for what felt like hours, but was only minutes. Jasmine was still standing in the middle of the living room with the legal papers in her trembling hands. Ethan was sitting in the armchair with his head bowed, breathing as if he had just run a marathon. Leo broke the silence. "I'll give you a moment to process this. I'll be outside if you need me, Auntie." He squeezed my shoulder before leaving, closing the door softly behind him. Jasmine was the first to speak. "You can't do this," she said, but her voice no longer had its former strength. It sounded hollow, defeated. "We're your family. Family doesn't plan to rob you. Family doesn't humiliate you on the internet. Family doesn't wait for you to die, to take what's yours," I replied without raising my voice. "I never said I wanted you to die," she tried to defend herself. "How much time does she have left? 10 years? 5? I quoted her own words from the audio. "I'm refreshing your memory." Jasmine closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek, but I didn't know if it was genuine or calculated. Ethan abruptly stood up. "I need air," he said, and went out to the backyard without looking at either of us. I watched him through the window. He sat on the concrete bench, the same one where I had cried and planned all this. He covered his face with his hands. Jasmine took a step toward the door. "Leave him," I told her. "For once in your life, let him process without you controlling the narrative." She stopped. She looked at me with something that might have been hate or might have been fear, probably both. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked. "To humiliate me? To destroy me? You already won. Isn't that enough? I don't want to humiliate you, Jasmine. I want you to understand what you did. I want you to look into the eyes of those children playing in the yard and ask yourself what kind of example you're setting for them. I did everything for them, for their future, to give them a good life. You were teaching them that it's okay to steal, lie, and use people. It's not stealing if it's an inheritance. It's stealing when you plan to take something based on the desire for the owner to die soon." Jasmine opened her mouth to reply, but nothing came out because there was no possible defense for that. She sank onto the floor, leaning against a wall. Her hands were still clutching the papers. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice cracking. "I don't know how to fix this." I sat in my armchair across from her. I let the silence stretch. "You know what the saddest part of all this is?" I said finally. "I loved you, Jasmine. I truly did. When Ethan brought you home for the first time, I saw how you looked at him. I thought it was real love. I opened the doors of my home, my life to you. I treated you like a daughter. And I loved you too," she whispered. "No, you didn't. You didn't want me. You wanted security. You wanted a free house. You wanted someone to watch your children while you lived your life. But you never wanted me." She shook her head, but without conviction. "When you made that video," I continued, "you didn't just humiliate me. You made me invisible. You reduced me to a function, a staff member without pay." And people laughed. Thousands of people who don't know me believed I was a burden, a gold digger, a useless old woman. "It was just a video," she started to say. "It was my dignity." My voice rose for the first time. "Do you know how many years I worked to build this house? How many sleepless nights? How many times I ate beans and cornbread to save money?
how many times my hands bled, literally and metaphorically. I stood up and walked toward her. I built this with blood, Jasmine, and you were going to take it as if it were nothing?
As if I were worth nothing. As if my life didn't matter. She was sobbing now. Her makeup was stream, her hair disheveled, so different from the confident influencer who posted videos. The backyard door opened. Ethan came in. His eyes were red, but his expression was different, harder, more determined. "Jasmine, get up," he said, his voice firm. She looked up at him from the floor. "Honey, no. Get up. We need to talk outside." Jasmine got up with difficulty. Ethan took her arm, not violently, but firmly, and led her to the patio, closing the door behind them. I stayed in the living room. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see their gestures through the window. Ethan spoke. Jasmine tried to interrupt. He raised his hand, asking her to let him finish. She cried. He remained firm. 20 minutes passed. When they returned, something had changed between them. It was noticeable in the space they left between their bodies, in how they avoided looking at each other. Ethan spoke first. "Mom, we accept your conditions. All 5 of them. No negotiation." Jasmine nodded silently, looking at the floor. "But there's something else you need to know," Ethan continued. His voice trembled slightly. "Jasmine and I are separating." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "Ethan, don't," I started. "It's not because of you, Mom. It's because of us. Because of what this day just revealed. I thought I knew the woman I married. I thought we shared values. I thought that we were a team. But today, I discovered she was hiding secrets, plans, and that she saw me as a means to an end. Ethan, please, we can work on this," Jasmine pleaded, grabbing his arm. "I'll go to therapy. I'll change anything." He gently but firmly released himself. "I need time. I need to think. I need to understand who you really are, because the woman in that audio, that's not the woman I thought I knew." "What about the children?" Jasmine asked desperately. "The children stay with me here, with my mom." Ethan turned to me, if she agrees. "If not, we'll find somewhere else. But they won't be in an environment where these kinds of things are being planned again." Son, I didn't know what to say. "Mom, forgive me." Ethan knelt in front of me, my adult son, 33 years old, on his knees. "Forgive me for being so blind, for not defending you, for letting them treat you like that in your own house, for laughing at that video, for doubting you when you showed me the truth." The tears I had been holding back finally came out. "I just wanted to give you a happy home," I said, touching his head. "A family. I thought I was doing the right thing by giving them space, by helping them, by making myself small so you all could grow. You made yourself too small, Mom. So small you almost disappeared, and I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it, because it was easier for you to do everything, for you to sacrifice, for you to give up your bedroom, your privacy, your life. Ethan, get up. That's enough. I don't need to tell you this." He looked at me with tear-filled eyes. "Dad died when I was 3. I barely remember him. But you were always there. You worked yourself to exhaustion to give me a decent life. You paid for my school. You supported me in everything, and I repaid you with indifference, with minimizing your pain, with choosing the comfort of my marriage over your dignity. It's not like that." I tried to console him. "Yes, it is, and it ends today." He stood up. "Jasmine will go to the storage unit to organize her things. She'll look for an apartment. The kids and I are staying here. I'll pay the rent you asked for, even though I know it's ridiculously low. I'll help with the house, and I'll learn to be the son you deserved from the beginning." I looked at Jasmine. I expected to see rage or resentment. I only saw defeat.
"When do you want me to leave?" she asked, in a monotone voice. "You can stay in the guest room tonight," I said. "Tomorrow, you can start looking for your own place."
You have 1 month to take your things out of the storage unit and sort out your situation. The children can visit you whenever you want, but you no longer live here. She nodded without fighting, without manipulating. Perhaps because she finally understood she had lost, or perhaps because she never cared enough to truly fight. "There's one more thing," Ethan said. "The video. Delete it now." Jasmine took out her cell phone with trembling hands, went to her TikTok, found the video, now with over 200,000 likes, and deleted it. "Now, the apology," I said. "Public, sincere, or there's no deal." Jasmine looked at me. There was something in her eyes I couldn't identify. Real remorse, calculation, resignation. "I'll do it," she finally said, "but not today. I need to process all this first." "You have until noon tomorrow," I said, without yielding, "or the deal is off." She nodded. Ethan went to the backyard to get the children. He brought them inside. Kyla and Sam looked at us confused, sensing the tension in the air, even if they didn't exactly understand what was happening. "Kids," Ethan said, kneeling down to their level, "Mommy is going to stay somewhere else for a while, but she'll see you often. You're staying here with Dad and Grandma. Is that okay?" "Why?" Kyla asked, with that intuition children always have when something is wrong. "Because sometimes adults need time to fix things," Ethan replied. "But we both love you very much. That will never change." Sam hugged my leg. "Grandma is staying with us?" "Yes, my love. Grandma is staying." "Good," he said, with that simplicity of a 6-year-old. "I like being with Grandma." Those simple words broke and healed me at the same time. Jasmine said goodbye to her children with long kisses and tight hugs. She cried. They hugged her back, not fully understanding, but feeling her sadness. Then she went up to the guest room without saying anything else. Ethan prepared dinner, something simple, quesadillas with beans. We ate in silence. The 4 of us sitting at my table with my tablecloths. After putting the children to bed, Ethan and I sat in the living room. "Are you sure about this?" I asked him. "The separation? It's your family. It's my broken family, Mom. I can't keep pretending everything is fine when the foundation of my marriage was a lie. The children will be better off in an honest home, even if it's divided, than in one full of secrets and manipulation." He was right, but it hurts all the same. "I love you, Mom," Ethan said, resting his head on my shoulder like when he was a boy. "And I'm going to prove it to you every day from now on. I know, son, I know." That night, I lay in my bed, the one I had taken back from the small room and put back in my master bedroom, and I looked at the ceiling. I had won my house back, but I had lost the illusion of the perfect family. Was it worth it? I looked around. My room, my space, my restored dignity. Yes, it was worth every tear. The next morning, I went downstairs at 6 as always. I made coffee and took out some pastries I had bought the day before. The house smelled different, lighter, as if the smoke from a fire that had been burning for years had finally cleared. Ethan came down at 7. He had dark circles under his eyes, but he looked calmer. "Morning, Mom." "Morning, son. Did you sleep a little, but well?" He poured himself coffee. "And you?" "Better than in months." Jasmine didn't come down until 9. Her hair was pulled back in a sloppy bun, no makeup, wearing the same clothes as the day before. She looked small, vulnerable. "Morning," she said in a quiet voice. No one replied. She poured herself coffee in silence. She sat at the table, distanced from us. At 11, she was still sitting there, looking at her cell phone. It's almost noon, I reminded her. She looked up. Her eyes were swollen from crying. I know. Are you going to keep your part of the deal? There was a long moment where I thought she would say no, that she would get up and leave without another word, that she would lose even the possibility of seeing her children regularly. But then she nodded. I need to record something. Can I use the front yard? Jasmine went out to the yard with her cell phone and a small tripod she took from her bag. I watched her through the window, setting up the camera, testing angles, fixing her hair. Even at her worst, she was still vain. But then she started recording, and what she said took me by surprise. I couldn't hear her from inside, but I could see her face, the tears running, how she wiped her eyes, how she gestured with her hands, how her voice broke. She recorded, stopped, recorded again. She did it 4 times. When she finally came in, she showed me her cell phone. Before I upload it, I want you to see it so you know I kept my promise. I pressed play. Jasmine appeared on the screen. No filters, no makeup, just her with red eyes and a trembling voice. Hi everyone. I know many of you saw a video I posted 2 weeks ago. One where I mocked my mother-in-law, where I called her useless, where I said it was her duty to take care of my house and my children. She paused, took a deep breath. That video was cruel. It was unfair, and it was a lie. My mother-in-law is not useless. She is the hardest working woman I know. She built the house we live in with her own hands. She paid for every brick by working double shifts after being widowed with a small child. She raised my husband alone, and when we got married, she opened the doors of her home to us without asking for anything in return. Tears were flowing freely now, and I repaid her with mockery, with public humiliation, with disrespect, not just in that video, but in my daily life. I treated her like she was my employee, like she owed me something, when the truth is, I owe her everything. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. She never had the obligation to help us. Every meal she cooked, every child she watched, every space she gave up was a gift that I took as if it were my right, and it wasn't. I am making this video because I owe a public apology to her and to all mothers, mothers-in-law, and grandmothers who are treated as if they were invisible, as if their work had no value, as if their sacrifice didn't matter. Her voice broke. I'm sorry. I truly am sorry, and I understand if you never forgive me. But I needed you to know, and for everyone to know, that I was wrong, completely wrong. And to all the people who applauded that video, who laughed, who commented horrible things about her, please think twice before mocking someone you don't know. Behind that mother-in-law is a story of strength, sacrifice, and love that I failed to appreciate. The video ended. I stared at the blank screen. Is it enough? Jasmine asked in a small voice. It wasn't perfect. There were parts that sounded rehearsed, but there was something genuine in her breakdown, in her tears. Upload it, I finally said. She nodded. Her fingers trembled as she pressed the buttons. She added text. The apology I should have given from the start. Publish. The video was there on her profile, visible to her 230,000 followers. Done, she said. It's up. Ethan, who had been watching from the doorway, nodded. Now, pack your things. I'll help you look for an apartment this afternoon. Jasmine went upstairs without saying anything else. An hour later, my cell phone started vibrating. It was Marka, my cousin. Did you see it? Did you see it? See what? Your daughter-in-law's video is blowing up. Ruthie May, you're everywhere.
I opened TikTok on my phone. Jasmine's video already had 50,000 views and was rising fast. The comments were multiplying by the second. Wow, at least she had the guts to apologize. You don't see this every day. Respect. I wish my daughter-in-law had this humility. Plot twist. The mother-in-law turned out to be the hero. But there were others.
Nice video, but the damage is done. She's only apologizing because she got caught. These influencers and their fake drama for views. The video reached 100,000 views in 2 hours. And then Marka called again. Cousin, can I tell your side of the story? People are asking. They want to know what really happened. Your story needs to be told. I hesitated. I didn't want to be the center of attention. I didn't want to expose my life further. But then I thought about all the older women who are treated as invisible, as burdens, as obligations. Do it, I said, but respectfully, without attacking anyone. Just tell the truth. Marka worked quickly. That same afternoon, she uploaded a video. She appeared in her kitchen with her colorful apron and her warm voice that had made her famous. Hello, family. Today, I'm going to tell you a true story about a woman I've known since I was a child, my cousin Ruthie May. And she told everything. Not with intimate details, not with full names, but she told the essence. A widow who built a house alone, who raised her son with love and sacrifice, who opened her home to her daughter-in-law, who was publicly humiliated, who discovered a plan to steal her assets, and who finally defended herself with dignity and justice. This is a story about dignity, Marcia said, looking directly at the camera. About knowing your worth. About not letting anyone, not even your own family, treat you as if you are disposable. Marcia's video blew up even more than Jasmine's, 1 million views in 6 hours. The comments were an unstoppable river. I cried. This is my mother's story. My grandmother went through the same thing. Thank you for giving her a voice. All mothers-in-law deserve respect. They are mothers too. We need more stories like this of women who don't back down. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. Other content creators started reacting to the video. TikTokers, Instagrammers, all telling their own stories of mistreated grandmothers and mothers, of families taking advantage, of older women reclaiming their power. Respect your mother-in-law became a trend. Dignity after 60 was a trending topic. My story, without me seeking it, had become a movement. 3 days later, a reporter from a morning news show called the house. Mrs. Jakes, we would like to interview you. Your story is inspiring thousands of people. I don't know. I hesitated. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. It can be from the back, with a distorted voice, whatever you prefer. But your message is changing conversations across the country. I thought about it for hours. Finally, I accepted. The interview was filmed in my living room. I was sitting in my navy blue armchair, my back to the camera, with my voice unaltered, because I decided I had nothing to be ashamed of. The reporter asked me everything: how it was to build the house alone, how I felt about the video, what led me to make the decision to take out their things, what I wanted to tell other women in my situation. I want to tell them that they are not alone, I said, looking toward the window where the sunlight was coming in, that their worth is not in what they do for others, but in who they are, that being kind does not mean being invisible, and that it is never, ever too late to recover your dignity. The interview aired the following Monday. It had 3 million views in the first week. My cell phone wouldn't stop receiving messages from distant cousins, neighbors, and school friends I hadn't seen in 40 years. But the message that most impacted me was from a woman I didn't know. Mrs. Jakes, my name is Patricia, and I'm 72 years old. I have been living with my son and daughter-in-law for 8 years. They treat me just as you described. Invisible, useful only for cleaning and watching grandchildren. I saw your story and cried all night. But this morning, I spoke with a lawyer. I'm going to take back my house. I'm going to take back my life. Thank you for teaching me that there is still time. Thank you for showing me that grandmothers also have the right to be happy. I kept that message like a treasure because I realized that all the pain, all the humiliation, all the difficult process had been worth it, not just for me. It had been worth it for all the Patricias in the world, for all the women who once believed that their sacrifice made them invisible, for all those who thought it was too late to defend themselves. Meanwhile, Jasmine had found a small apartment on the north side. She moved out with the basics. The children visited her on weekends. Ethan and she started couples therapy, although neither of them knew if the marriage would survive. But that was no longer my battle. I had fought mine and won. 2 months later, the house had found a new rhythm, one that was more honest, more balanced. Ethan got up early and made breakfast 3 times a week. The other days I did, but because I wanted to, not because it was my duty. On weekends, we cooked together while the children set the table. We had made a schedule on a whiteboard hanging in the kitchen. Monday, Ethan cleans bathrooms, I cook. Tuesday, I clean the living room, he cooks. Wednesday, we both cook. The children help clean their room, and so on. The house was no longer a place where one person carried all the burden. It was a home where everyone contributed. On the first day of every month, Ethan handed me an envelope with $1,500. I kept it in a savings account I had opened specifically for that money. "Mom, it's not enough," he had said the first time. "Let me give you more." "No, this is symbolic. It's so you remember that living here is a privilege, not a right, and that privilege comes with responsibility and respect." He had nodded, finally understanding the lesson. The children were flourishing in this new environment. Kyla had become more communicative. Sam was more confident. I taught them how to make sweet potato pies on Saturdays, how to plant herbs in the garden, and how to value what they had. "Grandma," Kyla had asked me one afternoon while we were kneading dough for pies, "why doesn't Mommy live here anymore?" It was the question I had been waiting for. I sat down at her level, my hands still covered in dough. "Sometimes adults make mistakes, my love. And when those mistakes are big, they need time to fix them. Your mom made mistakes with me and with this family, and now she is working on being better. But will she come back? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But what I do know is that you and your brother will always be loved by your mom, your dad, and me." "Do you love us more now that Mommy isn't here?" she asked, with that brutal innocence of children. "No, my darling. I loved you exactly the same before. The difference is that now I have space to show it without being exhausted all the time." She nodded, as if that made perfect sense. Maybe for children it did. Jasmine still came on Sundays. She would take the children to the park, to the movies, or out to eat. She brought them back before 6 in the evening. At first, our encounters were tense. She would arrive, pick up the children, and leave. She wouldn't even look me in the eye. But with time, something changed. One Sunday, after 3 months of this arrangement, Jasmine knocked on the door instead of honking from the car. I opened it. "Mrs. Jakes," she said. Her voice was different, softer, without that arrogance she used to carry. "Can we talk just for a few minutes? The children can wait in the car." I let her in. We sat in the living room, me in my navy blue armchair, her in a wooden chair I had brought from the dining room. I want to thank you, she began, raising her hand when she saw I was about to interrupt. Please let me finish. I nodded. I want to thank you for not letting me get away with it. For not allowing me to keep being that horrible person I was. For setting boundaries for me when no one else did. Her hands trembled slightly. I've been in individual therapy twice a week, and I realized a lot of things. How I always looked for shortcuts, how I always wanted things easy, how I used people without even realizing I was doing it. Jasmine, I started. Please let me finish, she repeated. I closed my mouth. You didn't deserve any of what I did to you. None of it. And the worst part is, for a long time, I didn't see it. I didn't see my cruelty. I didn't see my manipulation. I had convinced myself I was smart, strategic, practical, when the truth is I was selfish and mean. A tear rolled down her cheek. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to be family again, but I needed you to know that what you did changed my life. It forced me to look at myself in a mirror, and I didn't like what I saw. And now I'm trying to be someone different, someone my children can be proud of. She stood up. That's all I just wanted to tell you that. Jasmine. Wait, I said before she reached the door. She stopped. Please sit down. She returned to the chair cautiously. I wasn't perfect either, I said, and I saw her surprise. I made myself too small. I gave too much. I let my boundaries fade until they disappeared. And that wasn't right either. But you were just being generous. No, I was being cowardly. I was afraid that if I set boundaries, my son would leave me. That if I said no, they would stop loving me. So I said yes to everything until there was nothing left of me. I took a deep breath. You took advantage of that. Yes, but I allowed it, and that is my part of the responsibility. That doesn't justify, no, it doesn't justify anything, but it does explain how we got here. And if we are going to heal as a family, not necessarily like before, but as people who share grandchildren, then we need to be honest about everything. Jasmine wiped her eyes. Do you think you can ever forgive me? I thought about it. I truly thought about it. I don't know, I answered honestly. Forgiveness is complicated. It's not a light switch you just flip on. It's a process. But what I can tell you is that I don't hold any resentment toward you. I am at peace with what happened because it gave me back something I had lost, my dignity. I understand. And one more thing, I added. I've seen how you've been with the children these past few months. More present, more attentive. That speaks well of you. It means you're really trying to change. She nodded, unable to speak. Keep going for them and for yourself. Jasmine stood up. She came closer, and to my surprise, she hugged me. A brief but genuine hug. Thank you, she whispered, for everything, even the hard stuff. When she left with the children, I stayed in the living room wondering, had I really forgiven her, or had I just let go of the anger? Maybe it was a little of both. Perhaps forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or pretending nothing happened. Perhaps it was simply deciding that the pain no longer controlled my life. The evening was falling softly over the backyard. I poured myself a cup of coffee and went out to the patio. I sat on my concrete bench under the lemon tree that I had planted 37 years ago. The branches were full of plump, perfect yellow lemons. I thought about everything that had happened, the video, the humiliation, the discovery of the plan, the move, the confrontation, the separation, the story going viral. And I realized something. I hadn't just won my house. I had won my voice. For decades, I had kept silent. I had accepted. I had yielded. I had believed that loving meant disappearing, but now I knew differently. Loving meant having healthy boundaries. Loving meant respecting yourself as much as you respect others. Loving meant knowing when to fight and when to let go. My cell phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Mrs. Jakes, my name is Elena. I saw your interview 2 months ago. Today, I signed the deed to my house in my name. My son can no longer threaten to kick me out of the house that I bought. Thank you for teaching me that it is never too late to take back what is yours. God bless you. I smiled. I saved the message with the hundreds of others I had received in these months. Stories of Patricias and Elenas, of Rosas and Maras, of women who had found strength in my story to write their own. That was my true inheritance. Not the $450,000 house, but the certainty that my life had served a purpose greater than myself. Ethan came out to the patio. Mom, are you okay? Yes, son, I'm more than okay. He sat down next to me on the bench. Do you know what day today is? He asked. I thought it wasn't anyone's birthday. It wasn't an anniversary. No. What day is it? It's exactly 3 months since everything changed. Since you took back your house. Since I took back my mother. He took my hand. These have been the 3 hardest months of my life. The divorce, the therapy, realizing who my wife really was. But they've also been the best because I got to see you again. The real you. Not the one who made herself small, but the warrior you always were. The one I just didn't know how to see. Ethan, let me finish. I smiled. You sound like Jasmine when you do that. We laughed. I want you to know that I'm proud of you. Not just for what you did, but for how you did it. With dignity, without unnecessarily destroying, even giving Jasmine a chance to redeem herself. Everyone deserves second chances, I said. Yes, but not everyone takes them. I think Jasmine is trying. I don't know if our marriage will survive. Honestly, I don't think it will. But at least now we're honest, and that's better than the comfortable lie we were living. We stayed in silence, watching the sun set behind the trees. Mom, I have something for you, Ethan said, taking an envelope from his pocket. What is this? Open it. Inside was a legal document. I read it carefully. It was a formal waiver from Ethan of any claim to the house, a document stating that he recognized the house was mine and only mine, and that he would not seek to inherit it or claim it under any circumstances while I was alive. Ethan, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I need you to know that I'm staying here because you allow me to, not because I have a right. And if someday you decide you want your space back entirely, I will respect it without question. Tears threatened to fall, but I held them back. You are my son. This house will always be your home. But thank you for understanding. Thank you for teaching me what it truly means to be a man. It's not about protecting your comfort. It's about protecting the people you love, even when that means confronting difficult truths. That night, after putting the children to bed, I sat in my bedroom. The master bedroom, my bedroom, with my bed, my vanity, my view of the yard. I took out my old notepad where I had written so many things over the years and wrote, "Today, I understood that true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you don't allow to be taken from you. Don't allow them to take your voice, your dignity, your right to take up space in your own life. Because once you get those things back, no house, no money, no comfort compares to the peace of knowing you are whole." I closed the notepad, turned off the light, and slept deeply without nightmares, without worries, without fear. Because finally, after 68 years, I had learned the most important lesson. You are not old. You are not useless. You are not invisible. You are a woman who built empires with her hands, who loved with all her heart, who fell but got back up, who was humiliated but not destroyed, and who, in the end, proved that grandmothers are not made of glass. We are made of steel. If this story reached your heart, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Whether you are going through something similar, whether you know someone who is living it, or simply because these words touched you, I want you to remember this. It is never too late to recover your dignity. It is never too late to set boundaries. It is never too late to remind yourself and others who you really are. No matter your age, no matter how long you've been yielding, no matter how many times they have made you feel invisible, you remain whole, valuable, and powerful. Let me know in the comments where you are watching this story from. Did you identify with anything Ruthie May went through? I would love to read your story too. And if this story moves something inside you, give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Here, we share real stories of real women who refuse to be invisible. Because our stories matter, our voices matter, and most importantly, we matter. Until the next story, my people, and remember, grandmothers don't surrender. Grandmothers reclaim. Did you like my story? If you listened till the end, drop a 1 in the comments. If you enjoyed it, you can support me by liking the video and sending a small tip. I've got lots of other life stories like this on my channel, so make sure to subscribe and check them out. I've added 2 new stories on screen that everyone loves. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one. With love. Thank you for listening to today's story on the Eleanor Diaries. If you found this story meaningful, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you never miss the latest entries. I wish you a wonderful day.